Oh, thanks. Okay, welcome everyone, even though I've been talking already. Okay, we're studying the book of Revelations for the people online. We're on session 18. Now, we're going to review a little bit, and we always do what we kind of went through last time. But you'll recognize we have an outline given to us in chapter 1, and it's a past, present, future outline, all right? And we are on the future part of this. Write the things hereafter is what, John was to write down. So everything we're studying hasn't happened yet. And we're trying to figure out how it's really going to go down. Okay? So just understand where we are. I don't want anybody to start thinking this has already happened, because my biggest problem is people go on the internet and they read stuff that is totally wrong. And then they get this idea that they know what's going on. Like, whoever told you that was not right. All right? So that's what we're trying to do. Okay? And he said, hereafter, just understand, these are after these things. After the things he saw. All right? And we talked about a vision of Christ he saw. And the present was these 7 churches we went into really quite detail. And hereafter are all these prophetic things that we're going through. Now, y'all recognize the heptadic structure of Revelation. The heptadic structure is a fancy word for the number 7. Everything's divided into 7s, okay? And I'll be honest with you, just when I think I can't exhaust the number of 7s, you find another group of 7. It's just, you can see the Holy Spirit's fingerprints all over this. But we've opened up 7 seals that Jesus opened up, which then opened up 7 trumpets, or 7 trumpets. We haven't got to the 7th. But remember, we said it'll go through 6, and there's a parenthesis, like this breath or a pause of some other subject. And right now we're in that some other subject on the trumpets, okay? So that's where we're landing now. Next Sunday, we'll go through the last trumpet, which opens up the last 7 bowls, okay? And we'll be going through that, so just kind of understand where we are. We went through the temple and the 2 witnesses last time. I think I remember that. Talked about the views of where we think the temple might be, the traditional view in the north and the south. And we discussed that because that's going to be built, so it's relevant. It's something we need to know. We talked about 2 witnesses. We believe they're Elijah and Moses because of the miracles they did. Moses did the plagues, right, and turned the water to blood. Elijah brought down fire from heaven. These witnesses will have these same characteristics. And that's how we kind of lean toward Moses and Elijah. Okay? So that's them. Last time we went into the woman, the man-child, and the dragon. We kind of hammered down pretty good who these people were. Okay? The woman, who is the woman, if y'all remember from last time? Anybody want to say? Who are we dealing with when I say the woman? Israel. Yeah, it's Israel. Okay. Who's the dragon? Satan. You got it. You got it. And the man-child would be Jesus Christ. All right. The woman gave birth to the man-child. All right. So understanding them. Remember, the church is not the woman. The church didn't give birth to Jesus. We are something that came from Jesus. Okay. So just understand, all right? So if you read that. It talked about this woman, this church, unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. Y'all remember that verse, okay? But it starts the seed of the woman. And I really want y'all to recognize the seed of the woman is not normal. The seed is not in the woman. It's in the man. So it's a biological error, but it reflects a virgin birth is what it's doing. You can see that in Genesis, okay? But this messianic line starts. We talked about replacement theology, how most churches believe and teach that they are the new Israel. Israel's promises were rolled over to the church, which is a terrible thing. And a lot of things we can be controversial on, and so be it. But I think this one's dangerous because you're calling God a liar if you're going to believe this, all right? And people have problems with this. But most churches have this view. And the Catholic Church is the main one, and a lot of spin-offs from that. But they kept this view of this. Israel is now the church. And that's sad because the church, or the Israel, couldn't possibly lose the covenant God made with them. He promised, he goes, no matter how bad y'all mess up, You're not losing who you are. Okay? So just understand that.
We're not the guarantor.
What's that?
We're not the guarantor.
We're not. That's right. Okay. Israel appears in the New Testament 75 times, and not one time did it say that was the church. It was always the nation Israel. So understand that. Okay. They have major problems if you do believe that. We talked about the unconditional. The book of Romans stresses God is not through with Israel. He's right there. Okay. The 70-week prophecy, we talked about 69 weeks. We're in this interval. This is a church period. The church will be what? What's going to happen at the end? What makes the 70th week start? The rapture. The church is gone. Who's left? Gentile and Jews. Right back where it started. Okay? So understand that the church is not part of this. Okay. All right. We talked from Augustine to Auschwitz to Armageddon. Augustine started this. He started doing this started softening the scriptures. Allegorically is the word I'm looking for. All right? And everybody ran with it because we said when Constantine took over, they made it a one world religion, or I would say one world, but Christianity was the religion. They forced everyone to become a Christian. Well, how did they explain when they get to Revelation and Jesus is going to come back and rid the world of the evil rulers? See, that didn't sound real good for these preachers to be talking. So they softened and said, he's really not going to come back. He's going to come back in your heart, and it's not physical. It's not physical, I guess. It's spiritual. And this is wrong. And when we get to Auschwitz, if you don't think the Jews are important, what it does cause? Anti-Semitism, right? This belief is what caused the Holocaust to happen. And the churches promoted it. They said, yeah, the Jews, the church is now the Jews. Do you see the problem that we ran into? You can't blame everything on Hitler. The churches that didn't say anything, they're kind of victims too in this. Nobody said that. But it's because of this view, all right? And guys, it's going to happen again. You think a Holocaust was bad, the one that they talk about for the next, which we're talking about now, 1 out of 3 Jews died. 2 out of 3 are going to die during the Armageddon. So a bunch are going to get hurt again. Okay. Yeah, they're coming after them.
They're using the kids, the young kids,
As
and all that to promote, just like Hitler did. He sent the kids out with all their brochures and everything about.
Think about what's going on.
We are with Hamas doing the same thing with our college students and stuff.
You got it.
Pushing Hamas. It's like
Oh my gosh.
kind of like coming full circle.
And we're going to get into this Hamas stuff. Because who does Hamas believe? What is their religion? Muslim. They believe in Allah. All right, we're going to get into that a little bit. Okay. All right. So the Holocaust in Germany, kind of the Great Tribulation. Okay. The rules with the rod of iron, I think there's a lot of verses who we're talking about. And I don't want to beat this up, but we're talking about Jesus Christ. He's going to rule with a rod of iron. I used to think of that as a punishment, a rod of iron. A rod of iron is a symbol of protection. Okay, so just understand when you say a rod of iron. So he went through a couple of these, but King of Kings, Lord of Lords, we're nailing down this is Jesus Christ. All right. Okay. And Revelation 12:5, and she brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up unto God and his throne. Now, we talked about this last time, that caught up. What do y'all think that's talking about?
Rapture.
Debbie thinks rapture. A lot of people think the ascension. He's caught up. But the word is harpazo, to mean caught up forcibly. I don't see Jesus being forcibly caught up. I think that was you know what I mean? I just don't see it. So it might be rapture. I don't know. But it could be. Okay. So now, let's jump into chapter 13. Now, chapter 13 is going to talk about 2 beasts. One's the Antichrist, and this other guy is the false prophet that really nobody ever talks about. It's really a duet. There's 2 guys playing here, okay? Now, if we look at this, guess how many people in this little parenthesis between 12 and 14 is there that are talking about? 7. How convenient, right? There's 7 personages that we're dealing with in these couple of chapters. Now, people like to recognize the beasts of the sea and the beasts out of the earth. And then you have Satan himself, which is a dragon. And this is kind of a satanic trinity. You understand Satan is always trying to duplicate what Jesus did. That's his thing. Okay? And we're going to see this in his miracles that he does also. Okay? All right. So we have the conflict between the two seeds. We talked about the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent. The satanic trinity we're talking about. These very same forces are behind the world today. Satan is not gone anywhere when he was back then. He's still here. He's still in control. Well, I want to say in control. His dominion is here. Whatever happens, guess what? God is allowing it. Everything that happens to you is Father filtered. You realize it or not. Okay? All right. All right, so here we go. Let's jump into chapter 13, verse 1. And I stood up upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his head the name of blasphemy. Now, we're talking about the Antichrist. Now, we have a little confusion with our I there. That I should be he. It's not John. It's the Antichrist. Okay? So just so technical, it says, and he, which is Antichrist, stood out on the sea, and then John saw the beast rise out of the sea. Just a little technical, but I want you to understand that. Okay? Having 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns. Now these crowns are not Stephanos or diadems, meaning the ruler crowns. 2 different kinds. Okay? The word beast is kind of mislabeling. All right? The Greek has 2 words, the English doesn't. We call it beast. In here, the word beast is therion, which is a terror or a monster or something of that nature. The same word beast is zoa, where we get the word zoo from. That's why they'll say living creatures in some versions. They don't say beast because they're just a living creature. Totally different than some ferocious beast. You see what I'm saying? So anyway, so just understand, right here it's being used correctly. It is something terrible, fierce, all right? But sometimes it'll be zoa, which is just an animal, okay? All right. And this beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as of the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. Now, you recognize the leopard, bear, and the lion. Now, the sad thing is we haven't studied Daniel real in depth, besides a couple of chapters. There's a chapter where Daniel talks about 3 kingdoms. The first kingdom was the Babylonian kingdom, and that was represented as a winged lion. That's who Nebuchadnezzar was. The next is Persia, all right, and they're known as the bear. And the last one is the leopard, I think Napoleon being taken over so quickly and fastly. But these are backwards. See how the leopard and the bear should be the lion, but they believe we're looking backwards in time. Daniel is looking forwards in time. Okay? But the lion, all right, communicated arrogantly. If y'all know Nebuchadnezzar, remember Nebuchadnezzar made a statue of himself? What did he make the people do? Worship it, right? And you remember the Daniel and lions, the Daniel and the fiery furnace? See, they were forcing him to worship this statue, and you're going to see this pattern build, okay? And was Nebuchadnezzar pretty arrogant? Oh, yeah. So you're seeing this, all right? The bear was a guy that controlled extensively. He controlled a lot of land, and the leopard conquered swiftly, which Napoleon did. He took over it so fast, he was really... Napoleon said he was on his bed crying because he had no more empires to take over. And he took over it so fast, like a leopard, very swiftly. Okay. All right. And I saw one of these heads as they were wounded to death. Let me go back to this. Let me go back to one. The 7 heads and the 10 crowns. I want you all to understand the 7 heads are kingdoms, or they call them mountains, but I want you to understand there's 7 kingdoms. The horns are the rulers of the kingdoms. Okay, just trying to decipher how these are being displayed. Okay, I forgot to bring that up. Okay, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. Now, I'm going to ask you, does this sound like a mortal wound on the head? Sounds like it. Now, could this also be a kingdom that was healed and came back? Yeah, it could be both. I think we could be both here. But as we read on, we are going to realize, I think this is really physically a head wound. I think so. Let's look at Zechariah 11. Let's look at this verse. It says, woe to the idol shepherd. Now, idol not as in lazy, but an idol as a worship idol. Woe to the idle shepherd that leaveth the flock. The sword shall be upon his arm and upon his right eye. His arm shall be clean dried up, and his right eye shall be utterly darkened. What's that sound like? Yeah, a sword hit him. Maybe hit his arm, lost all the tendons. What I don't know. But there's these wounds of this guy that Zechariah is describing. All right. And when we get to our mark of the beast, I want you to recognize where we take the marks, or where they take the marks. It's either on the forehead or on the right wrist or arm, whatever. Could you be identifying to his marks? Yeah, I think of Rooster Cogburn with the patch, and if people want to be, or I think John McCain had a withered arm, didn't he? Yeah. No, if I'm telling you right. Robert Dole, yeah, Dole, that's right. Yeah. One of them had a withered arm. Okay. So anyway, all right. Now, and they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like the beast, and who is able to make war with him? Now, the question is, who is the dragon? I want y'all to understand this. Who is the dragon? Satan. Who are they worshiping? Satan. These are Satan worshipers, guys. Okay? And they worship the dragon, and they gave power unto the beast. So because they're worshiping Satan, they gave power to the Antichrist. This is how this is working. All right?
The Antichrist is the beast.
Antichrist is the beast. Satan, the dragon is Satan. Yeah. And worshiping the beast and saying who is like the beast and who has made it. So they're really bragging about. Now, is there satanic worship today? Yeah, there's all kinds. There's all kinds of satanic worship. But there's one that sticks out that we don't even talk about, and they don't even want to recognize it. It's probably the biggest satanic worshiping groups we have. And they're worshiping a guy called Allah. Okay? A Muslim that believes that way is a satanic belief. They may not want to admit that. You tell them that, no, but it is, whether we realize it or not. Okay? Remember the Satan, and I just found this interesting, and it may not mean nothing, but I found out how Satan is coming after the woman, right? The woman and her seed. How does Muslims treat their women? Really bad. I don't know if that's foreshadowing of that, but anyway. But understand. So when you say satanic worship, don't sit there and go, oh, it's these desert worship. Oh, no. This is way bigger than you realize. Okay. All right. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things, and blasphemies, and power was given unto him according to 40 and 2 months. Interesting little time period. Remember 42 months? How long is 42 months in years? 3.5 years. Remember, that's the halfway point. Remember, it'll bring up 1,260 days. That's 42 months, same thing. And you'll see the time times and half a times, that's 3.5 years too. This is a time documented more than anywhere in the Bible. Every time you're going to see this, you go, I know exactly what he's talking about. Okay. But he was given a mouth speaking great things and blasphemy. It sounds like this Antichrist has a big mouth. He's just shooting off his mouth a lot. Okay? I want you to recognize it. Okay? He opened his mouth in blasphemies against God, to blaspheme his name, and in his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. Ooh, there's an interesting verse right there. Who's he blaspheming? He's blaspheming God. He's blaspheming his name, his tabernacle, and who else? The church, or people that dwell in heaven. Now, we can talk about people there's a lot of people that believe in soul sleeping. When you die, you just stay in the grave until it's time. No, when you die, you're there. Your body's here, but your soul is in heaven. There's a lot of people in heaven right now. And we're going to get to saints, all right? Everybody thinks the saints are the church. No, don't single the saints out like the saints are a specific group. We have Old Testament saints, right?
We have New Testament.
Yeah, and we have New Testament saints. We have the church. We have tribulation saints. So don't categorize your saints. So we're talking about different groups of people, okay? All right. So anyway, I find that interesting because the people say that, the church is going to be, well, we can't be there because apparently he's blaspheming us. If it's us in heaven, we're there. Okay, that's the point I wanted to make. All right. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints. So there's the saints, but these are saints that are still on earth. And to overcome them, and power was given to all kindred, tongues, and nations. Is Satan going to take over the saints? What does that verse say?
He's going to kill them.
He's going to overpower them. Y'all see that right there, right? The saints are not going to win. Understand, anybody that is going through this and believes in Jesus, what is going to happen to you? You're going to die. You're not going to survive.
Because eventually you'll be in heaven with Jesus.
Absolutely. Now, there is a group of Jews that's a remnant that is going to call Jesus to come back. And I don't want to get you confused with that, because that's who's going to petition him to come back. They survive. But a Gentile, if you ever believe in Gentile, you're done. You'll be in heaven, okay? So understand that. But understand, they're going to overthrow every person that's on earth that believes. They're the saints. Okay. And it says, and all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose name are not written in the book of life. This is the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. So who is going to die? I know we talked about this. If your name is written in the book of life, are you going to die? Yes. If your name is not written in the book, guess what you're doing? You're worshiping the Antichrist. Okay? That's the way I'm understanding these verses. Everybody with me? Okay. All right. Now, if any man have an ear, let him hear. That's kind of a familiar little saying. Y'all recognize that one with the seven churches? You have an ear, let me hear. Okay. He that leadeth into captivity, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth by the sword must be killed with the sword. Here's the patience and the faith of the saints. All right. Now, this is a divide line with our chapter. We have been talking about the Antichrist. Now we're going to jump into another guy, another player called the false prophet. All right? So let's jump into this. And I beheld and another beast coming out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake like a giant. Now, I didn't talk about this, but we believe the first one came out of the sea. This one comes out of the earth. All right? With him coming out of the sea, people tend to think he's going to be a Gentile. The Antichrist is going to be a Gentile. And I'll show you some other little things that we see. Now, this guy comes out of the earth. All right? And not to dig into a bunch of verses, but they believe that maybe this guy is Jewish. Okay? But what he is going to do is he is going to teach everybody and tell them to worship the Antichrist. Okay? Okay. Could be a Jew. But either way, he's received by Israel. Israel accepts him. And that's why people tend to think he's a Jew. Okay? All right. All right, so let's keep going. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him. And he causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. So he is worshiping the Antichrist. There's that head wound again. It's almost like I really believe he's got a head wound. All right, that's just because the verses keep throwing that at us. All right, okay. Now he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on earth in the sight of men. Guys, that's pretty incredible to think a false prophet can bring fire down from heaven. Would that be considered a miracle?
Yes.
I would say so. Now, whenever we see miracles, all right, I want you to understand who is getting credit for the miracle. I want you to recognize that. If you see a miracle, if I hear, Satan or Allah, then I know this is a satanic miracle. If I hear in the name of Jesus Christ, I understand Jesus Christ. Don't fool yourself and think Satan can't do miracles. I want you to also understand Jesus never relied on his miracles for you to believe in him. I don't want you to believe in me just because I did a miracle. I want you to believe in me because of the scriptures and everything I showed you. Okay? Let's say I did see a miracle. All right? And that's what changed my faith. I saw a miracle. I saw it happen. Changed my faith. But if that's what I'm basing my faith on, then I'm going to be looking for more miracles. I would be. Because that's what's building my faith. It ain't the word. It's the miracles. Okay?
And that's why Jesus said, you're healed now, but don't go tell them.
Yeah. Keep it to yourself.
But they would.
Yeah. Well, you can't hide it. But do you think maybe if I'm looking for miracles, I might see another miracle and I'll be deceived and it's another? Yeah. So understand, our faith is not built on miracles. We'll see them, and believe me, I believe in Jesus, but that's not the reason I believe. So anyway. Okay. All right, so this guy's doing these miracles, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles. So the people on earth are going to see these miracles, and they're going to start believing. And those miracles which he had the power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast which had the wound by his sword and did live. All right. The way I'm seeing this, he's doing these miracles, and not only does he do miracles, but he makes them have an image of the beast. Yeah, that's what it says, right? And they should make an image of the beast. So an image of the Antichrist. Okay? Now, did Nebuchadnezzar make an image of himself?
Yes.
Yeah. Do y'all see the parallel and where it's supposed to worship the image? Okay. All right. I should make an image of the beast and wound. Now listen to this. And he had power to give life unto the image. Whoa, hold on a minute. This is way further than just a statue. All right. The image had life in it? Because it gave life unto the image of the beast, and the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship of the image of the beast should be killed. This is pretty crazy stuff. If I have a statue talking to me, you better worship him, and if you don't, then you're going to die. Okay? But this is what this false prophet is doing. Okay? All right. And he calls us all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand and on their forehead. Remember the marks? Remember the wounds? So you see, okay, now I kind of understand why we're putting the mark where we're putting it. All right? And that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark in the name of the beast or the number of his name. Now, I also want you to understand, if you're following the Torah, the Jews, you're not allowed to take a mark on your body. All right? We can call it a tattoo, you can call it whatever. Now, I'm not putting anybody down for having tattoos. That's not what I'm saying. For the Jews, they were said not to do it. Okay? But in the same verse, you read down, you're not to shave your sideburns either. And everybody kind of forgets that part. So y'all got plenty of grays. I'm not beating tattoos up. But for a Jew, that was wrong. Okay? For them to take a mark, they're really going against what God told them to do. Okay? All right. This is a mark. Okay. Now, let's go back to the Zechariah 11. Woe to Ahijah, upon his right eye it's wounded, and upon his right arm utterly died. Okay, understand the problems that he has. He has the eye issue and he has the arm issue, where we're thinking the marks are being brought in. Okay, I think I'm kind of being double-standard, but I'm making sure we cover this. Okay, now here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. A score is 20. 3 scores 60. So there's our 666. Now I don't care who you are, but you don't have to be a Christian, but you understand the 666. Now, if you take this mark, you lose, because there's no way you're going to get to heaven if you take the mark. It's like you take the mark, you're done. So this is something very serious. Now, they get this 666 is Christos, we call it Christ, all right? But they put a little serpent, see that little old wiggly line, we call it a little serpent emblem? They put it in the middle of the word, and it makes it anti-Christos or Antichrist. Now, well, we have a thing called Gematria. We don't have it in the English. The A and B and C, see, they don't have any number values. See, we have our numbers. Gematria is the letters of certain Greek. The letter has a number value. Okay, so our A would be a number 1 or whatever. Okay, but understand they have a number value, and if you add them letters up, Antichrist is just 3 letters, and they add up to 666. And the Hebrew and I think the Greek also, they both add up to 666. Now 6 is considered a number of man. 7 is complete. 6 is not complete. What was that?
7's perfection.
Perfection, complete.
Which is
Yeah,
God.
absolutely. Okay, so we understand where they're getting the 66. Okay, now, talked a little bit about Gematria. Now people will start trying to get 666 and all kinds of names using these convoluted ways of trying to get there. They get Hitler. Hitler says 666 and all these people, and I think one scientist I read, he goes, if you torture the data long enough, it'll confess to anything.
Right.
You'll make it read whatever you want it to read. All right? But don't dig into that. 666 is what it is, So anyway. Okay. Now, the question I want to ask you, is this mark his mark or is it your mark? It's his mark.
Yeah, we take upon us.
You take it upon us, but it's his mark. Now, oh my gosh, people go into the chips and the codes and all these issues with implants, and they're like, oh, that's the mark of the beast. That's the mark of the beast. Don't take it.
Wasn't the Social Security numbers at one point thought maybe that was like
Yeah.
a number?
Yeah.
Okay, repeat the question.
Social Security number.
Social Security number. Okay. I want you to understand there's a difference between taking a number that's my identity versus his identity. And we understand the mark of the beast is whose identity? It's his. So I want to get real big up into these codes and stuff for yourself, because everybody can have that for security, and I don't see no issue with that. It's not the mark of his number. It's my identity that I'm carrying with me. So, and the barcodes, I don't know if you can see the barcode at the bottom. You some see the 666, as dividings, and I just don't see that as being the mark of the beast. That's just technology going, and people are accepting it. Just remember, it's his mark. If it's your mark, it's totally different. Okay. All right. How are we doing on time? Okay. Now, this Antichrist guy, has a bunch of names. In the Old Testament, there's 33 names. All right? Now, we only talk about a few of them, but he's known as the Assyrian. And we're going to get to this a little later, which is weird because I don't even know what an Assyrian is. And I'm just going to try to explain to you a little bit. The idol shepherd we talked about, little horn, prince that shall come to see the serpent, the willful king. All right, some of these names. In the New Testament, we got a few. Not to go through all these, but the Antichrist. It's funny, Antichrist is really not a good name for him, because Antichrist, people tend to think he's the Christ. He's taken the place of Christ. He's a pseudo-Christ. It would be better than the Antichrist, I guess is what I'm trying to say. He's a beast, false prophet, that's our false prophet guy, but you get the point. Man of sin, son of perdition, that's a different one, okay? Now, you may read, you go online, and you read about the son of perdition, And you may read where they believe it's Judas reincarnated. You're like, well, that's pretty crazy. Well, if you were to dig into some of the verses, when Judas dies, it says he was sent to his place. And there's certain wording that just is kind of odd. Now, I don't believe that's the case at all, but I can see kind of where some people see that. So if you read that, understand there's all them people that believe that. Okay? Okay. Now, let's review a little bit, because we're going to jump into Daniel 7, where we're talking about this prince that shall come. All right? Now, this is review. We had in Daniel 9 the 70 weeks. We got the scope, the 69 weeks, this interval that we're living in right now. It's called the church period. And then the 70th week is what we're talking about now that hasn't happened yet. Okay? All right. And we talked about, remember the prophecy when to restore Jerusalem to the Messiah, the king comes riding in on a donkey, and it was exactly 69 weeks to the day. This was probably the most intriguing thing that brought me to my faith when I realized, oh my gosh, how can you not believe this? Because this was wrote centuries before it happened. Okay? And there's more to it. Okay. Now, but this interval is what I'm talking about, and this is the time we're living in. Now, let's read this. And after 62 weeks shall the Messiah be cut off, executed. So we know he was, right? But not for himself, and the people of the prince that shall come. That's the one I want y'all to recognize. The people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and in there after Jesus died.
And the Jews.
Nope. The Romans. The Romans came in and wiped it out. Okay? The people of the princes shall come. So people tend to think, oh, the Antichrist is going to be a Roman because of the people that wiped out the city was Roman. So understand where they're getting this idea from. Okay? Okay. Now we got our interval. 69 weeks happened. We are living in this verse 26. And then our 70th week is when the Antichrist shows himself, that we've all discussed. Okay? And that's what we're going through now, his domination. All right. Now, if we jump over to Daniel 2, and this is, remember Nebuchadnezzar built the statue? And y'all remember Daniel was locked up, and yet he could tell dreams, and he came in and he deciphered Nebuchadnezzar's dream. All right. And he came in, he said, the statue, the gold is you, Nebuchadnezzar. The silver is the next kingdom that's going to take over you, and the next is the brass. And then the legs were made of iron, and some iron mixed with clay. So understand, we're talking about two dynasties. There's iron, and then iron mixed with clay. All right? So how many we got there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kingdoms that Daniel's talking about, he described. Now, if you go to Daniel 7, it's the same description, except Daniel was how Nebuchadnezzar saw his dream. Daniel 7 is how God sees his dream. God saw Nebuchadnezzar as a winged lion, as a bear on his side. Okay, Greek was the leopard. And this iron and iron mixed with clay, he doesn't even have words to describe it. He just says this great, terrible beast. And it had 10 heads. You're like, what is all this about? I mean, I'm seeing this, but this is very confusing. All right? But I want you to understand what's going on here. So if we go back in history, we know Babylon was Nebuchadnezzar. Persia was the silver, the bear. Okay? And Greece was Napoleon, that guy. All right? And you're like, all right, how did Daniel predict all this? See, Daniel is such a prophetic book for the history. Most people that read Daniel and they understand the histories and the kingdoms that all happened, they're like, this had to have been written after it because it matches perfectly. It's God's print all over this. Okay. Now let's read Daniel 7 a little bit. And the great beast, this great beast, which are four kings, which shall rise out of the earth. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever and ever. So the four beasts are the ones we just read. The bear and the lion, okay. It says, shall overtake the kingdom even forever. So Jesus is going to take over it all. That's basically what this is saying. Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast. See, he doesn't care about the three he just read about. He understands this fourth one is the one he's trying to decipher and understand. this fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceedingly dreadful, with teeth of iron and his nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with feet. So he's describing this fourth kingdom as really bad. Okay? And of the 10 horns there were in his head, and of the other which came out. So I want you all to understand, there's really 11 heads. There's these 10 that he's talking about, but this little one shows up. And we're also calling it the little horn, all right, which came up before them. 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes and the mouth to speak very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. Now, I understand this little horn that's coming out is the Antichrist. This is what I'm trying to make. Right? And I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them. Okay, let me read that verse. I beheld, and the same horn, which is the little horn, made war with the saints. Did the saints win? No. It says he didn't prevail against them. Let's look at the verse we just read in Revelation 13. And it was given to him to make war with the saints, and did they overcome, and overcame them. Are you seeing the parallel what we're talking about? We're talking about the same thing, and the power was given. Now, in Matthew 16, it says, I say unto thee, I have that Peter, and upon his rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. Is Satan going to prevail against the church? No. You'll understand we are a totally different group than what is being talked about here, because God is allowing Satan to take over the saints, but for us, it ain't going to happen. All right. Now, see if I can also explain this. There's a verse, I don't know which one it was. It says, Jesus said, it says, no man born of woman is greater than John the Baptist. Now think of what I just said. No man born of woman. That we're talking about Moses, we're talking about a lot of people, is not greater than John the Baptist. But whoever is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than John. What is that? What? I don't understand that. And what Jesus is saying, Malachi is not the ending of the Old Testament. It's John the Baptist, personage-wise. John the Baptist falls under the Old Testament saints. Everybody after that, guess what? You're part of the church. That's the way I am, because you believe in Jesus. That's the dividing that he's trying to tell you. Different groups of people here, all right? And I want you to, and that's what this is explaining. We have a church group, and then we have these saints that are going to be overtaken. All right? All right. All right, let's keep going in Daniel. And behold, the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them. We've just read that. Until the Ancient of Days come, and judgment was given to the saint of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. So now we're talking about when Jesus comes back and we take over. We're ruling now. All the saints are ruling. Thus he saith, the fourth beast shall be of the fourth kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it into pieces. And the 10 horns out of the kingdom are 10 kings that shall rise, and another shall rise after them. And he shall be diverse from the first, and shall subdue 3 kings. And shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints and most of the high, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given unto him his hand until a time and times and divided in time. Do you recognize that? So you can see this is linking to Revelation stuff. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion to consume and destroy it until the end. All right, so I want you to recognize this is not the digging it, but you understand this is talking about this Revelation stuff, okay? And we're almost done with this, so you understand. We're going to break it down. And the kingdom and the dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. This is millennial stuff. This is Jesus Christ ruling, having complete authority and control. That's what that verse is. Now, John ends it, says, hitherto is the end of the matter. But as for me, Daniel, my cogitations were troubled, and my countenance changed in me, but I kept the matter in my heart. So, I mean, he learned all this, but it was troubling. All right. Now, how are we doing? Okay. Now, let's look at Daniel 11. Have you ever heard of the I want to say the Dark Ages? What's the word I'm looking for? I want to say the Quiet Ages. Maybe it is the Dark. It's a time where the Bible doesn't talk about. And I'm just at a loss of words here. Okay? And if people don't believe, Daniel describes that time, the silent years. That's what I'm talking about. You ever hear the silent years? It's those years that nothing in the Bible's talked about. Daniel talks about it in chapter 11. But nobody really realizes this. So let's look at this a little bit. If you read Daniel 11, verses 1 and 2 talks about Cyrus. Cyrus is the one that took over Babylon, right? Okay? And he goes through all his dynasties, and then Alexander takes over. That's verse 3 and 4 in Daniel 11. He's describing what's coming, okay? Now, once Alexander the Great takes over, he conquers it so fast, he ends up dying, and he goes, I don't know who to give my plan to. He says, let the strong take it. And these 4 generals fight over it. And there's 2 that dominate. They're Ptolemy and Seleucus. All right? Now, you get to the chapter 11, down the rest of these verses, it actually talks about the kings of the south and the kings to the north. It's these 2 generals who take over. And it's all right there. And that's why people go, there's no way Daniel could be written after the fact. This had to be written after, because this perfectly describes all these kingdoms. Daniel is an awesome book for prophecy to realize there's no way there isn't a God that writes this. That's the way I see it. Okay, not to get into this. Okay. All right, here we go. We are going to talk about Satan's 7 super kingdoms. That's the way I'm going to describe this. Okay? Let's look at this. I'm kind of jumping ahead. This verse we've covered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon. We know who the great red dragon is, right? Satan. Having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head. Now, we said the 7 heads are kingdoms, right? All right. Now let's look at the 7 kingdoms that Israel was dealt with. Remember, they were taken into captivity with Egypt, right? All right. Then Assyria took over, which is an odd one. Assyria. I don't hear much about Assyria. Then Babylon came. We know Daniel's story. See, Daniel was looking from Babylon on down. He didn't catch Egypt and Assyria because that was before his time. All right. Babylon, and then Persia, and then Greece, and Rome. And this is what Daniel's talking about. That we went through the lion and the bear, and okay, understand that. All right. Here's our gold, silver, brass, iron. I just want y'all to recognize these are the same kingdoms that he's talking about. All right. Not to beat you up on this, but anyway. In Rome 2, but Rome 2 has not been built yet. Rome was not destroyed. Nobody took over Rome. It just kind of fell apart. But it's coalescing. It's coming back together. And it's going to have 10 horns. And I said 10 horns are 10 leaders or rulers. Now, I'm going to tell you something that I think kind of understands what's going on. When I say Rome 2, and I say the 10 horns, I am going to insert the UN. If y'all understand what the United Nations is. It's Rome all come together with these 10 leaders. I'm not saying I'm right here, but I'm just trying to get you to understand what may be going on here. Okay? These 10 horns. Okay. Now let's look at, this is jumping ahead in Revelation 17. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is. And the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. You're like, oh my gosh, how do I explain this? Because this is tough, all right? Now, the one that cometh that must continue a short space, I'm going to think that's probably the Antichrist coming because he only has 7 years. We know that, okay? Now, let's look at this. The 7 kings, I get it. We had the kingdoms, Egypt and Assyria, Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome, and Rome too, okay? 5 are fallen. Now, John is writing this. Which kingdoms have already been in the past? Well, that's Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Persia, and Greece. Who is in charge when John's writing this? Who threw him in captivity? Rome. Okay. So the one that is Rome. So we got 6 of them. All right. Now, the other that has not yet come, that is this Rome too, and I'm going to call the UN. I'm just throwing, because something's coalescing, coming together. I want you to recognize that. Okay, everybody with me? Okay. Now, here's the zinger. The next verse, "And the beast that was, and is not, even he is the 8th, and is the 7th, and goeth into perdition." I'm like, oh my gosh, take that to your Bible study and let y'all decipher that and try to explain it, okay? All right, so let's try to break this down a little bit. I believe this 8th guy is this little horn, okay? It's the way I'm understanding this. This 8th guy is this little horn, which is the 11th horn. We're going to call the Antichrist. Now, and he's of the 7. So he's of the 7 group. You recognize that. With Egypt, Syrian, and them guys. But was and is not. That's the one that gets me. Was and is not. Of these 7, which one was but is not today?
Rome.
No, Rome is there. We recognize Rome. May not. Okay, let me go through. Is Egypt there? Do you know where Egypt is? Okay, how about Babylon? Yeah, Saddam Hussein was trying to rebuild that. Persia, that's Iran. Yeah. Greece, yeah, I mean, we got Italy and all that. And then we got Rome also, where the Vatican is. Which one didn't we bring up? Assyria. The one that is not. All right? So that's the one I want you to recognize. It's Assyria. Because I'm like, what is Assyria? I thought it was Syria. They're like, no. Assyria is different. All right, so let's look at this. Now in Micah 5, it brings up, talking about the Antichrist here, and this man shall be the peace. Remember, the Antichrist is going to bring peace, right? That's this old deal. So when the Assyrian shall come into our land, and when he shall tread in our places, then shall we rise again, him 7 shepherds and 8 principal men. So there's our verse that we kind of talk about 7 and the 8th. Right? And they shall waste the land of Assyria with the sword, and the land of Nimrod, and the entrances thereof, and shall he deliver us from the Assyrian, which he cometh into our land, when he treadeth within our borders. Remember I said a title of the Antichrist was the Assyrian. Well, first of all, I don't even know what who is this? Okay. Now, I didn't know this, because I guess my history, and I just don't know this, but these countries really had no prevalence until the early 1900s, and I didn't know this. Iran really didn't exist until 1906. It kind of started coming back into being. Afghanistan was in 1921, Egypt in 1922 with Iraq, Turkey in 1924 came to be, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Pakistan, and then Israel came to be when? In 1948. And so y'all see these, it's like these people are coming back together. It's like God is setting up the stage for something, okay?
Where's America?
Yeah, well, where's America? It ain't there. Now, remember we talked about the 2 generals, Ptolemy and Seleucus? Okay, understand who took over. Ptolemy took over Egypt, and Seleucus took over the rest of them. Now, Assyria was Iraq and Syria together. That was Assyria. I didn't know that, but there are people that have ancestry from Assyria who, when the Iraq war started, they really thought it was going to come back and coalesce. Iraq and Syria were going to join together, and Assyria was going to come back to be. I didn't know any of this, okay? But Assyria, just something odd that I didn't know. Okay, everybody with me? All right. Okay, so let's wrap this up. So our coming world leader is going to be a big mouth. He's going to be displaying blasphemies, all right? The leader will be the son of Satan, which is interesting. Jesus is the son of God, all right? He will be an intellectual genius. He will be an oratorical genius, speak very well, You're going to be really fooled by him. He will be a political genius. He will be a commercial genius. He will be a military genius. He didn't start off that way. He brings peace, but at the end, he really gets after it. He will be a governmental genius. He will be a religious genius. This is the one that's kicker to me. He is going to bring the Jews and the Muslims together. How's he going to do that? I don't know. But he is. Okay? He is. There's a pretty verses are backing that up. Okay, so we covered the two beasts. All right, beast out of the sea. This is our Antichrist, having 7 horns and 7 heads and 10 horns. His heads with the name of blasphemy. One of the heads deadly wounded with the heel. We covered that. Powered by the dragon for 42 months. Overcomes the saints. The earth dwellers worship him. All those not written in the book worship him, right? Then we have this other guy, the false prophet. He has 2 horns like a lamb. I find that like a lamb. Speaks as a dragon, causes earth to worship the first beast, deceives the earth with miracles, forces worship of the image of the first beast. All right. And they've received a right on their foreheads or their right hand or both, and they'll have the number 666. So that's what we covered in an hour. So I am sure all of y'all are like, trying to pick, because this is not an easy one for me to study, because I'm trying to learn this myself. Okay, but I hope you got a little bit out of this. But the 10 horns, I truly believe, is type of UN structure of Europe coming back together, and a lot of people watch that very sincerely. Yes, ma'am.
Just within the last month, someone posted that Israel became this beast.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, what are you talking about? You're just some idiot
No.
on the internet. And I really thank you for having that.
Yeah, 1948. This was after the Holocaust, and everybody felt sorry for the Jews to say, hey, let's give them their land back. And that's how that all came to be. So now you understand the fight with the Palestinians and the Jews, because they were there, and we gave them the land back and kind of kicked them out. So that's what the big argument is, you see. Yes, sir.
Well, something we forget too is they didn't kick them out. They started to build a nation with sewage systems, with electricity grids. They started to develop.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to develop with them. They wanted to kill them. So the narrative is they came in, occupied, and kicked them out. No, they came in and started building houses, buildings,
Yeah.
infrastructure, and then they started killing Jews. And so the Jews had to say, oh, well, if
No,
you
we need-
kill us, you can't really live next to us, so how are we going to work this out? It wasn't the Jews coming in to push them out. It was
Yeah. They didn't want to live with them.
a society coming in and
They didn't want to live with them. The hatred was so strong that they...
look at Moscow now, the billions of dollars of aid. What do they do with it? They built tunnels to kill people.
What did I tell you?
Instead of building hospitals,
Did-
real hospitals to help people, instead of building infrastructure for water wells, desalination, irrigation, they built tunnels so they could hide tree buckets of it.
But the UN and Israel did build a water system, but Hamas dug it up and made missiles about it.
Understand,
They had a perfectly good water system that they destroyed to make war.
I think somebody told me when that happened, there were Jews still in, where that land was. When that happened, people started coming in, and people took Jews in to live with them. Understand? And the Muslims that didn't want to live moved out. And yet nobody took the Muslims in. No other Muslim countries. You could just see the weirdness. Yeah.
Because they're killing
It's.
one information, killing them.
And I always said, if you poke land, if you control the land, you're poking your finger in God's eye, because that's His land. Let's wait. Yes, ma'am.
Why is the Muslim religion the fastest growing religion?
I don't know if it's the fastest growing. I don't. Yeah, I don't know it.
They force them.
And that's it is, because let's think of it this way. If I was a Muslim and I decided to be a Christian or a Jew, what do you think a Muslim would do to you? Kill you. So why am I going to do something different? You see, especially if you're born into it in his family. I mean, let's just be honest.
They usually, in general, have more children than
Oh, and they're multiplying the world, yeah. And they call it biological jihad or something like that or something. Okay, I got to stop. I'm way over. Okay, let me pray us out right quick. Chapters 14, 15, and 16 is next time. All right, dear Heavenly Father, thank you for today. Thank you for this church. Thank you for the people here and the people listening online. I pray that you be with them as they go throughout this week. Keep them safe and healthy. And I pray that we be ambassadors of you and show the world that you live in us. I ask this in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.